Hello, everyone. This is Mrs. Lopez. We are in Module 3, Lesson 15, Graphing Solutions to Inequalities. At this point, we know what inequality is. We know how to put the numbers that we know from the word problems down. And our job is to now not only solve the inequality, but to graph it. So today we are learning how to graph the solutions. Let's look at exercise 1. Two identical cars need to fit into a small garage. The opening is 23 feet and 6 inches wide, and there must be at least 3 feet 6 inches of clearance between the cars and between the edges of the garage. How wide can the cars be? Okay, so before we start writing an inequality to represent the situation, I would like to make a picture of the garage, and there are two cars in it, and we know they should have the same distance from the wall and between each other. The question is how wide can the cars be? So maybe the width of the car we can have as an X. And we know that the garage opening, so this whole space right here, is 23 feet and 6 inches. 6 inches is half a foot, so I can actually change that into feet, so 23 and 5/10 feet. And I also know from the problem that the opening, the clearance between the wall of the garage and the cars is identical, which has to be at least 3 feet 6 inches wide. 6 inches again is half a foot, so I'm going to write 3.5 feet. 3.5 feet. Okay. All right, so now we know that this whole thing has to be less than or equal to 23.5 because we can't have more space than what we are given. So the equation will look like I have two cars, so 2x plus this distance right here. If I add or multiply 3.5 by 3, I will get 10.5 feet. And I know that the whole thing has to be less than or equal to the width of the garage, which is 23.5, 23.5 feet. All right, so now we need to solve it. First, we are going to add the additive inverse of 10.5. So we'll have to, I will just rewrite that. Plus 10.5 is less than or equals to 23.5. So we are adding negative 10.5 to both sides of my inequality. I have 2x is less than or equals to, and I will have 13. All right, and then, oops, sorry, need to erase that. Okay, and then I would multiply by the reciprocal of 2, both sides. And since I'm multiplying by a positive number, my sign is not going to change. I will have x is less than or equals to 6.5 feet. So my car has to be, the cars can be no more than 6 feet 6 inches wide. And again, I'm writing not 6.5 by 6 feet 6 inches because it's a measurement of a car. I can write 6.5 feet, but I think this one is more appropriate in this case. Okay, so how do I graph a solution? I know that my car has to be less than or equal to 6.5. So really my answer can be any number up to 6.5. I'm going to graph on the number line. I'll draw a number line and I'll start with a 0. I will not have to worry about the negative numbers because I cannot have negative width of a car. I'm going to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's do 8. 6.5 is right here. So now, how should I show my answer that shows everything but which is more than 6.5. So 6.5 is included in my solution. The cars can be 6.5, but no more than that. So I'm going to draw a circle on 6.5, and I'm going to shade it in to show that it is included. 6.5 is included in my solution, so I'm shading it in. And my answer can be less than that as well. So I'm going to draw a vector right on the number line. Hope you can see it good. Even up to the 0, that will show my solution. If it wasn't, if the problem was about the width of the car, and if I could have negative solution, my vector would even continue into the negative numbers. But here I cannot have negative solution, so I think I will stop at 0. My answer can be 6.5 included or less than that, and that's how I'm showing my solution to this inequality. Let's look at the second one. A local car dealership is trying to sell all of the cars left on the lot. Currently, there are 525 cars on the lot, and the manager estimates they will sell 50 cars per week. How many weeks will it take for the number of cars on the lot to be less than 75? Okay, so what do we know in this problem? We know that there are 525 cars in the lot. We know that they will sell 50 cars per week. The question is how many weeks? How many weeks is our question. So the weeks can be an x, right? Right away. Will it take for the number of cars on the lot to be less than 75? Less than 75. So I have 525 cars altogether. They're selling 50 cars per week. That number is going to be probably a negative number because we are talking about selling the cars. The numbers on the lot will be smaller. And it has to be less than 75 altogether. So my inequality will look like 525 cars, and I'm taking away 50 cars per week, and that has to be less than 75. Okay, so now I need to solve it. First of all, I need to make sure that I have plus negative here, and then I will add the opposite or additive inverse. So negative, okay, so negative 525 plus 525 plus negative 50x has to be less than 75 plus negative 525. Okay. Now, I have negative 50x will have to be less than negative 450. Okay. Now we need to multiply by the reciprocal times negative 1/50th times negative 1/50th. And this is the problem that we haven't done yet. Now we are multiplying by a negative number. That means that the inequality sign has to change to the opposite. Remember we talked about the reverse relationship? So now since we are multiplying by a negative number, the inequality sign will change. X will be greater than 9. X is greater than 9. Sorry, you couldn't see it. Okay, and now I'm going to graph it. I'm drawing the number line, and I have, the question is how many weeks will it take? So it will take more than 9 weeks. It means that 9 cannot be the answer. It has to be more than 9. So when I'm graphing it, let's start graphing from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and it will continue. 9 cannot be a solution. The x, it has to be greater than 9. So I'm going to draw a circle on the 9, but I'm going to leave it blank. I'm not going to shade it in like I did before here. 6.5 here was included in our solution. 9 is not included, so we cannot shade it in. It will be left blank, and everything that is greater than that number is going to be highlighted, including the arrow. Because our answer does not stop on 14, it'll be more than that, right? So for the cars to be on the lot less than 75, we need to make sure that we sell for more than 9 weeks. Okay. All right. Exercise 2. Um, and in class, we are going to probably talk about why that's happening, and we can actually verify the solution. If I substitute 9 instead of the in my inequality here, I will have 525 plus negative 50 times 9. Negative 50 times 9 is negative 450. 525 plus negative 450 is going to be, has to be less than 75. But if I subtract these two, it will be 75. Can 75 be less than 75? No, that's how I know it's false. If I put any number that is more than 9, let's say 10, and I will have 525 plus negative 50 times 10. Negative 50 times 10 is going to be negative 500. 525 plus negative 500 is going to be 25, and 25 is less than 75. So that definitely makes more sense. Okay. All right. The cost of renting a car is $25 per day plus one-time fee of $75.50 for insurance. How many days can the car be rented if the total cost is to be no more than $525? Okay. So we need to write an inequality to represent the situation. So what we know is that we have $25 per day, the cost of a car, and we also know that there is a fee of $75.50 for insurance. One time, we don't need to pay more than that. And the question is how many days can the car be rented? So days can be our x. And we know that the cost has to be no more than $525. Okay, so the inequality will look like we have to have $25 per day, so 25x. And then we know that there is 75.50, and it has to be no more. So it can be 525, or it can be less. So less than or equals to $525. Okay, so now we need to solve this inequality. I'm going to rewrite that again. Plus 75.50 less than or equals to 525. So I will add the opposite first. 75.50 plus negative 75.50. 25x has to be less than or equals to 449 and 50 cents. And then I will multiply by the reciprocal of 25. 125. We are multiplying by whole numbers, so inequality sign is preserved. And x is less than or equals to $17.98. $17.98. Okay. So this is the number of days, right? It can be less than 1798, but it cannot be more. And the number of days we will count as a whole number rather than a decimal, because even if I have a decimal, we count by days, right? So we will talk about 17 days. 17 days. So when I graph the solution, I'm going to draw a number line, and I will just start with, let's say, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, sorry. 19 and 20. So 17 days is right here. However, the number of days can be 17 or lower. 17 is included in our solution. So we are going to shade in the circle on the 17. And it can be less than that, so we will go to the less side of it. Highlight that part. And that is my solution. All right, last problem here. Miss Kian decided to buy 3 sweaters and pair of jeans. She has $120 in her wallet. If the price of jeans is $35, what is the highest possible price of a sweater if each sweater is the same price? So we have 120. That's how much she has. She doesn't have more than that. She can spend 120, but she can't spend more. And if the price of jeans, that's what we know. And we don't know the price of a sweater. So let's the price of a sweater be X. Then my inequality will look like, let's see, she wants to buy 3 sweaters. That's another word that we need, number that we need to know. 3 sweaters will be 3x plus $35 for the jeans, and it cannot exceed, so it has to be less than or equals to $120 that she has in her wallet. So let's go ahead and solve it. 3x plus 35 is less than or equals to 120. And then I have 3x plus 35, and add the opposite, negative 35, has to be less than 120 plus negative 35. So I will have 3x is less than or equals to 85. And then I'm multiplying by the reciprocal. And x will have to be less than or equals to $28.33. Okay, so now I need to graph it. Since I'm multiplying by a whole number, by a positive number, my sign stays the same. All right, graphing the solution. Okay, I'm going to start with, let's say, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. Okay, my 28 and 33 cents will be somewhere here. This number can be included in our solution, and it can be less than that. So I'm going to put the circle around the 28, and I'm going to shade it in because the solution is included. And everything that is less than that will also be included in our solution. Here we go. Okay. All right. So now it's time for homework. The homework is 2 problems only, and we will discuss them in class. So good luck, and I will see you in class.